So do you consider yourself as an introspective and deep thinking person who feels emotions quite intensely? Or have you been told that perhaps you're too sensitive or that you shouldn't think so much? If you've answered yes, chances are that you might be an HSP, also known as a highly sensitive person. And in fact, you are not odd at all. Around 15 to 20% of the population are under this category. Okay, so please keep watching. I'm going to share a resource later that you can use to check if you might be an HSP, as well as covering some of the pros and cons of this trait, so you can become more self-aware and live your best life. Hello everyone, my name is Angela and welcome to my YouTube channel. So the term HSP was made famous by an American psychologist called Dr. Elaine Aron in her book, The Highly Sensitive Person. A highly sensitive person is someone who is thought to have an increased central nervous system sensitivity compared to the norm. So this can be in the form of physical sensations like sound, light, pain, or emotional and social stimuli. So HSPs are often very empathetic and intuitive people, and they can also be very emotionally intelligent and creative. Okay, some of the other traits that HSPs have are: number one, they are deeply moved by the arts and music, and they tend to love to analyze the people and the situations around them. Number two, they can't stand violence, aggression, or intense conflict, and they tend to feel very unsettled by the situation. And number three, they tend to be drained quite easily in situations where there are too much stimuli, where perhaps there's a lot of light or loud noises, situations such as concerts or festivals. So if you want to find out more if you're an HSP, I have linked a quiz on Dr. Elaine Aron's website in the description below if you want to check that out. So I'm going to cover some of the advantages that HSPs have. So number one, they tend to be very empathetic people. HSPs are often very aware of the emotions of the people around them. They can easily sense any early signs of early conflict or notice if someone in the room is left out or feel annoyed, and are generally very inclusive people. Number two, they are often quite creative. HSPs are often poets, musicians, artists, as it is important for them to have an outlet for their perhaps quite intense emotions. They can be very loyal friends, so they tend to care deeply about the people around them and form deep bonds with others. They tend to really appreciate the small things in life. So HSPs might get a lot of joy out of the smell of their coffee in the mornings or the view out of the window, rather than things like loud concerts or festivals. As you can imagine, feeling and processing emotions more intensely than other people can have its downsides. So this can often make them feel that their senses are often overloaded and they can feel overwhelmed quite easily. So this makes HSPs more susceptible to mental health problems such as anxiety and depression. And there are some other downsides of HSPs. So number one, they can feel let down by other people because other people aren't as sensitive as them. Perhaps when other people don't pick up cues that might seem obvious to an HSP, they might feel like other people don't really care. Number two, criticisms tend to affect HSPs quite deeply. Number three, if an HSP is not very self-aware, they can have a tendency to catastrophize things. For example, in a relationship, if an HSP senses that something is a little bit off, they can exaggerate what is happening in their heads, and they can tend to ruminate quite a lot. Number four, they can find it quite difficult to deal with conflict. As HSPs get stressed out by anger and violence and any form of disagreement, HSPs might run away from conflict rather than dealing with them head on. And number five, HSPs can have the tendency to be quite self-critical and have low self-esteem. So if an HSP made a mistake or perhaps did something that was a little bit embarrassing, they would probably spend a lot more time worrying about it, ruminating what happened in their heads compared to most people. So here are some tips in how you can live well as an HSP. Number one, you need to recognize and understand your emotions. And when you start to feel overwhelmed, you need to start to look for patterns in why you're feeling like this. And think to yourself, what are the problems right now? Is it because I have too much to do? Is it because the environment is very stimulating? And find coping strategies to help yourself. Perhaps you're someone that needs to go to a party for an hour or two rather than the whole time. And maybe you need to prioritize your sleep and schedule in alone time, because you know that's important for your mental health. And perhaps you need to say no to some great opportunities because you have simply too much going on in your life right now, and do not feel guilty for turning those things down. Okay, my second tip, start talking to other people that you trust about your sensitivities. Remember, once you start sharing it with other people, a lot of that mental burden that you carry on yourself will be gone. Often other people may be able to shed some light on things that you yourself cannot yet see. And it might be a lot easier to let other people know how you'll cope in certain situations. I'm sorry, but I'm quite overwhelmed at the moment. I might need to step outside for a few minutes, if you don't mind. Okay, my third tip, start practicing self-compassion and learn to put yourself first sometimes. Being a sensitive and highly empathetic person can mean that you really sense other people's pains, and you might carry other people's emotional burdens as your own, especially the people that you care about. And that can feel quite a lot and quite overwhelming. Remember, it is not up to you alone to solve everyone else's emotional baggage. So treat yourself like someone that you care about. And that does not mean that you are being selfish. Remember, being a highly sensitive person means that you are more likely to feel things quite deeply, whether that's positive or negative things. While the highs can be quite good, the lows can also be quite challenging and overwhelming. And the important thing to do is really and accepting the person that you are and find ways to cope with your sensitivities and become the best version of yourself. So this is everything from me today. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more well-being tips. I also post shorts very regularly, so you can always come back for some quick important reminders when perhaps you're too busy to watch a full-length video. I look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye!